Giggity wrecked, son!
Thomas here with Much Props, going to give you another how-to video. I haven't made anything from Rick and Morty for a while, so I thought why not dive back into the world. And I was trying to think of something iconic and something that would try and challenge me at least a little bit in terms of scale. And I kind of thought of the space cruiser. They fly around in this little spacecraft all over the galaxy and other universes. I don't want to build a ginormous one, so I was looking through some of the stuff they already had, and I had some of those half Christmas ornament globes, and I thought, why not just use half of that as the dome and build it to that scale. So that's the game plan. Today we are going to build a space cruiser from Rick and Morty. Let's get to building. I started by opening the Sketchfab app on my cell phone and looked for a 3D model of Rick's space cruiser from Rick and Morty to use as a reference. I found an image that I thought would work and kind of just hand drew the template, figuring out pieces as I went. I have on the channel here a video of 4 different ways that you can make your own template if you're interested in going and watching that to figure out how I attack template making. Anytime I make one, I always put a link down in the description below on the video for free. You can download the PDF, print it out, cut it up, and trace out the parts onto your materials. There's a cover page with lots of instructions, and the parts actually have little bits of information on them to help you as well. I apply barge contact cement to my edges, let it sit for a couple of minutes until it's no longer wet. Then I start tacking parts together using the registration marks to help me keep them straight and even. You can cut off the dotted areas on the bottom base piece and trace them onto your part so that you can place the vents in the tank and the middle dome where it needs to lay so you can properly place the tires and axle and all that other stuff. There's a lot of details on the bottom. Most of the seams get covered up with other details, so it doesn't really have to be perfect. And if you mess it up, it's okay. You can just say that Rick wrecked the spaceship and you got like battle damage and stuff. I didn't record myself making any of the bottom detail parts for some weird reason, but they're pretty simple. The tank is just a 20mm EVA dowel with small strips of 2mm EVA glued on top of it, and the vents are just a frame piece stacked on top of the vent with the slats cut into it with a hobby knife. The bottom dome is a rounded piece of 10mm EVA foam. That's pretty much the details on the bottom. The tires and the axle are just various sized EVA dowels cut up, burnt in with a wood burner on some of the details, and glued into place. Make sure to wear a respirator and work in a well ventilated area while sanding and burning foam. You don't want to breathe that stuff in. Protect your lungs so that you can continue making things for a long time. I cut this 1.5 inch by 12 1/4 1/4 strip of 6mm EVA, I know there's a lot of numbers, sorry, to glue on the inside of the space cruiser. If you get it down while the contact cement is still wet, it's easy to position, but obviously I did not in mine and it started to set up, so I kind of had to finagle it and pull it up in parts where it's stuck where I didn't want to, but you can muscle it into place, no problem. The side panel goes over the base to add those little slot details where like the yellow recesses are when you do the paint job. I did my best to space them out evenly. Really, it's pretty simple. There's 2 per section of the sides. I marked where they would sit, put down some contact cement on both parts, and then stuck them together. Once they were on, I cut a small strip of 2mm EVA foam to go around the top to kind of act as an edge to hold the dome into place later. In my reference images, I could see a few details on the inside, like a dashboard, a middle console, some weird little side device, electronic thing next to the passenger, and then there's also a tank that sits behind the seats that I just use an EVA dowel for. My big hands kind of struggled to get these parts into position and make them in the proper places, but eventually I got them down and where I was happy with them. To make the bucket style seats, I cut 2 strips of 10mm and 1 strip of 6mm EVA, the width of my pattern on that seat piece. Then I glued them together flush on the back, traced out the seat, and then cut them. Once I had it cut out, I sanded over the edges and started kind of carving it into more of a car cushion seat shape. Then I cut a V-groove where the bottom meets the back of the seat and super glued that permanently into a closed position. Make 2 of them and glue them in. The engine looks like trash cans with rocket boosters on the inside of them, so to attack this shape, all I did was cover a 1-inch EVA dowel with 2mm EVA detail pieces. Then I started to cut little pieces to add on top of that, basically just going off of the references that I could see. And I cut a wedge for them to sit on so they would be roughly sitting parallel with the ground. After they were on, I put on a bunch of little details here and there on the rest of the ship. The hoses from the boosters, the flashlight headlights, the rivets all over, and the little strip that goes over the dome. None of these pieces are very difficult to figure out if you're just looking at a picture. Two coats of Plastidip. To finish off this prop, I hand painted the entire thing using various colors of Plat Effects acrylic paint. I put down on the flat base colors everywhere, and once I had about 2 coats of each color, I started adding a layer of like a darker color in like random spots to kind of make it look dirtier. After everything had a chance to dry, I simply just glued the dome on top and called this Rick and Morty space cruiser finally finished. And we are finished. Here is the end result. Overall, I think it turned out pretty cool. Now, it is very hard to obviously record this because of lights and glares and all that stuff, and it's also kind of hard to take pictures of it, but I think it turned out pretty awesome. There are some details on there that I kind of embellished and things that probably aren't on the actual one, but it's a cartoon and I'm trying to make it a real three-dimensional thing, so some adjustments have to be made, I guess. The reference images that I used were on Sketchfab. It's a program that I use from time to time on my cell phone. It's free. It's got like 3D models in it that you can look at, and that's basically what I just went off of and just kind of figured out the template as I went. So hopefully it is helpful, and if you want to build one of these yourselves, please do so. Maybe you will try and make one of these yourselves and impress your friends with your ability to build space cruisers from a favorite cartoon show, and then you get to just kind of stare at it for whatever weird random reason, like Plumbus just hanging out that you've been trying to give away for a while, but nobody wants to get it, I guess. Still. Maybe he'll get some...
Oh boy, oh my. Ooh-wee.
And inevitably, they're going to ask you, how'd you make that? You can give them one of these, tell them, much props. I mean, I guess we could, like, play Frisbee with it or something, or... Yeah, let's try that. You dropped it. Way to go. If you enjoy what I do here on YouTube and want to see me continue to post builds, please consider joining me and these awesome people listed here over on my Patreon. Let's build a bigger, better, more creative community together.